911, what are you reporting?
Hi, there's a person who's been stalking me online, and they just showed up to my house. Yeah.
Okay, and they're outside now?
Yes, they're knocking on my door.
Okay. And the one that's knocking on your door, is he the main one that you said has been stalking you?
Yes, he's a stalker. He's yelling things at me through the door right now.
Okay, and do we know his name at all?
It's Chris Hansen.
As you may have heard, Chris Hansen has recently paid a visit to Onision by going directly to his house and knocking on his door. And as you may have also heard, Chris Hansen has said that there is an FBI investigation into Onision, but there are people that are questioning whether Chris Hansen is actually telling the truth about that. So in this video, I'm going to address two closely related points. One is on the issue of people that seem to be surprised that Chris Hansen is doing this to Onision, and they say things like, they didn't expect Chris Hansen to do something like this. I think that these people are not very familiar with what Chris Hansen does. Chris Hansen actually has a reputation for being a fairly aggressive investigative journalist, and these are the kinds of things that Chris Hansen does. So if you wanted Chris Hansen to go after Onision, you shouldn't be surprised that he showed up at Onision's house. Chris Hansen has done this to other people before, and other journalists have done this to people. It's actually a fairly common practice. The other point I'm going to bring up is the people that claim that Chris Hansen must be lying about talking to the FBI because they think that it is somehow FBI policy or somehow the law that the FBI can never talk to journalists under any circumstance about an ongoing investigation. These people are absolutely wrong. People like Realstream News has been making this claim, but I'm going to show you in this video with receipts that that is not the FBI policy, and that it is actually quite believable that Chris Hansen actually has been speaking with the FBI and that the FBI is at least doing a criminal investigation. That doesn't guarantee that the FBI is definitely going to arrest Onision, because just because they do an investigation doesn't mean that there's going to be an arrest. But Chris Hansen has actually never promised that he is going to be arrested either. But the thing about Chris Hansen is he is pretty well known amongst normies and also people I would consider not normies on the internet. He's actually pretty well known amongst both those types of people. And he has a reputation for being the pedo slayer. There's all kinds of memes about Chris Hansen. And perhaps people don't understand this, but Chris Hansen, part of the reason why he's known as the pedo slayer is because he has a reputation for going hard against people. And that's what he's doing. And he does often show up to people's homes unannounced. That's the kind of thing he does. So if you are surprised that Chris Hansen is doing this, then you're surprised that Chris Hansen is doing the kinds of things that Chris Hansen does. But you can't say that Chris Hansen isn't going hard against Onision, because he is definitely going hard against Onision. And frankly, right now, he's probably the best person to be going against Onision. Now, Chris Hansen has said on his YouTube channel that he has contacted the FBI over Onision and that the FBI is, in fact, conducting a criminal investigation of Onision. But there are some people that think that Chris Hansen is lying. One person that has somehow convinced a lot of people, it seems, that Chris Hansen is not actually telling the truth when he says there is an FBI investigation is Realstream News. Now, why does Realstream News think that he knows that Chris Hansen is lying? Well, apparently, RSN contacted the FBI himself and asked if there is an investigation. And the FBI said that they are not going to confirm or deny it. RSN apparently both called and I guess emailed the FBI, and he said he got this response. Although I put it on the highest resolution, it's still a little blurry, but you can read what it says. It says, DOJ policy prohibits me from either confirming or denying the existence of an investigation. What Realstream News doesn't seem to understand is, just because someone at the FBI won't confirm or deny anything to him, it doesn't mean that they won't confirm or deny anything to Chris Hansen. If you look at this CNN article from April 20th of 2017 called FBI Restricts Contacts Between Its Employees and Media, it actually does go into detail about what the FBI's official policy is when it comes to talking to the media. According to this article, there had been a lot of leaks at the FBI, and the FBI was not actually changing their policy, but was underscoring their existing policy. To quote the article, the FBI policy is intended to underscore the media contacts are limited to those managers in charge of the field offices, in addition to designated public relations employees and others given specific authorization. So that means that there are actually 3 times in which, under official policy, an FBI agent may speak to the media. One is if the person is an FBI field officer. Another is when the person at the FBI is a public relations employee. And it could also be a specific person at the FBI, perhaps a specific agent, who is given specific authorization to talk about something to somebody in the media. So it is actually quite possible that there is somebody at the FBI that has been given specific authorization to talk to Chris Hansen, or maybe Chris Hansen is talking to a PR official or a field officer. Realstream News did make the arrogant claim that the FBI would be no more willing to talk to him than they would be to Chris Hansen, but that's not true at all. Obviously, Realstream News doesn't understand this, but Chris Hansen is actually a lot better known than Realstream News. Most people at the FBI probably have heard of Chris Hansen. I'm not so sure that most people have heard of Realstream News at the FBI. Most normies know who Chris Hansen is. Most normies don't know who Realstream News is. In fact, most people on the internet don't know who Realstream News is. But most people on the internet do actually know who Chris Hansen is. So just because the FBI wouldn't confirm or deny anything to Realstream News does not prove that the FBI would not talk to Chris Hansen. The thing is, Chris Hansen is not only a journalist, but he is also assisting the FBI in this investigation. He has been giving them information. And when you give the FBI information, then you also, for that reason, might actually know if there's an investigation going on. I'll give you an example. In January of 2019, there was a documentary aired on Lifetime called Surviving R. Kelly about the sexual abuse allegations against singer R. Kelly. Later that month, TMZ reported that the FBI was investigating R. Kelly. In that case, they didn't actually get the information directly from the FBI that the FBI was investigating them. Instead, they cited a source that cited the fact that the FBI had been in contact with the father of one of the alleged victims of R. Kelly, and that's what led them to find out about the FBI investigation. So Chris Hansen has been in contact and apparently has actually been assisting some of the alleged victims of Onision and has apparently been helping them report him to law enforcement. So for that reason as well, Chris Hansen would likely know if there is a criminal investigation into Onision. So yes, I do think that Chris Hansen is a credible and reliable enough source to say that yes, I do believe that there is an actual criminal investigation into Onision. That does not mean that Onision is guaranteed to be arrested or convicted. And Chris Hansen never said that Onision is guaranteed to be arrested or convicted. I know that there have been some YouTube commentary channels that have used clickbaity titles that say things like Onision and his final few seconds of freedom. But Chris Hansen never said that Onision is going to be arrested within seconds, and it's only been about 2 months since Chris Hansen even said that there has been a criminal investigation into Onision. It did turn out that it was true that there was a criminal investigation into R. Kelly, but he was not arrested until July of 2019, so about 6 months after it was first reported by TMZ that there was an investigation. And it is not uncommon for these kinds of investigations to take a long time, even though Realstream News and other people on the internet don't seem to think that there is an investigation at all if it hasn't happened in 2 months. The reality is, yes, sometimes these kinds of investigations do take a long time. That's just the reality. In addition, Shiloh, Onision's former fiance, one of Onision's victims, and one of the people Chris Hansen has interviewed, has also stated that there is an open FBI investigation. And that would be sort of similar to the situation with R. Kelly, where they found out about the open investigation because of the people who had reported R. Kelly to the FBI. Here is the video that Shiloh posted on Twitter.
Hansen does have an open investigation. There is also, to my knowledge, more than one FBI investigation open, including my own.
One way in which Hansen has gone hard after Onision is Hansen has showed up at Onision's door unannounced. Now, there are a lot of people online that seem to think that it was improper for Chris Hansen to do so, people like Nerd City or Josh Pescatore. But the thing is, if you watch the local news, a lot of times TV journalists will show up to people's homes who are accused of far lesser crimes unannounced and just knock on their door. And Chris Hansen has done this before. And I'm not just talking about on To Catch a Predator or TCAP. Another show that Chris Hansen hosted, Crime Watch Daily, would often show up to people's doors, and sometimes they would even go to people's neighbors and knock on their doors and ask them things like, "Are you aware of the allegations against your neighbor?" This is a relatively aggressive thing for a journalist to do, but Chris Hansen is known for being relatively aggressive sometimes in his reporting. He is an investigative journalist. An investigative journalist is basically a journalist that does their own investigations. Now, some people say, well, journalists shouldn't do investigations because they're not law enforcement. But in the United States, we have something called freedom of the press, which allows journalists to do investigations independently of law enforcement. Journalists should not have to get the okay from law enforcement before they do an investigation. In fact, journalists can even investigate law enforcement. That's one of the benefits of the First Amendment, is that the First Amendment allows journalists to actually investigate the government itself. So I don't know if Chris Hansen got the okay from the FBI, but a lot of people are saying they don't think the FBI would want Chris Hansen to do this. I'm not so sure. A lot of times, law enforcement actually likes it when investigative journalists do things like this. And like in the case of R. Kelly, the media attention that R. Kelly was getting in January of last year did seem to perhaps lead to the FBI to take action against R. Kelly. Now, I'm not sure if the FBI would actually acknowledge that, but the reality is it is true that when somebody in the media puts a lot of pressure on something, there is more pressure for law enforcement to actually act. Now, I don't know if the FBI is going to arrest Onision, but I do think it's possible. But again, I'm not going to be like some of these other YouTube channels and say that it's definitely going to happen. Now, Onision did call the police on Chris Hansen, and the sheriff's department apparently did show up, but they did not arrest Chris Hansen because Chris Hansen wasn't doing anything illegal. It's not actually illegal to go to someone's door and knock on it. If the person tells you to leave their property and you do leave their property, then it's not really illegal. It might be harassment if you don't leave the property. It could also be trespass. It might also be a harassment if you show up every day to somebody's house and knock on their door when you know that they don't want you there. But just doing it once, like what Chris Hansen was doing, is not against the law, and that's why Chris Hansen wasn't arrested. Now, look, if you guys didn't want Chris Hansen to do something like this, then maybe you didn't want Chris Hansen to investigate Onision in the first place, because this is the kind of thing that Chris Hansen does. To be honest, I actually like what Chris Hansen is doing on YouTube better than TCAP. I know that TCAP has a lot of fans, but it does seem like sometimes, at least, TCAP probably was entrapping people, and I know that at least over 20 cases were actually thrown out because of possible entrapment. However, on YouTube, he's definitely not entrapping people. He's not using decoys. None of the people that he is talking to are people that were, decoys or undercover or anything like that. So there's no way you can say that this is entrapment. And no, this is not going to mess up any sort of FBI investigation or any other law enforcement investigation just by knocking on Onision's door. That's not the kind of thing that would get a case thrown out. 9/11 calls are public record, and they have actually released Onision's 9/11 call on Chris Hansen's channel and elsewhere. I'm going to play that call right now, and I'm also going to react to it, but I will be taking out a few things like his address.
911, what are you reporting?
Hi, there's a person who's been stalking me online, and they just showed up to my house. Yeah.
Okay, and they're outside now?
Yes, they're knocking on my door.
Okay. And do you know if they have any weapons?
They have a bunch of camera people, like they're YouTube stalkers.
Okay. But no weapons seen?
I didn't see any weapons. I just saw like
Okay.
6 guys in my driveway, and one of them is knocking on my door.
Okay, 1 second here. And the one that's knocking on your door, is he the main one that you said has been stalking you?
Yes, he's a stalker. He's yelling things at me through the door right now.
Okay, and do we know his name at all?
It's Chris Hansen.
That portion of the call where Onision has to say that Chris Hansen is the person at his door, I think is actually classic and quite memeable. And I do think the 9/11 operator does think that it is Chris Hansen, the Chris Hansen from TCAP. I know that there could be other people named Chris Hansen, but then Onision is asked to describe who Chris Hansen is, and yeah, it does fit the description of the famous Chris Hansen.
Okay, Hansen?
Hansen, yeah. Hansen.
And then Chris?
Chris, yeah.
Okay, is he white, black, Asian, Hispanic?
He's white.
Okay, do we know
He's
how old he is?
older. He's like probably 58, 60,
Okay,
something like that.
how tall?
Probably 5'10", 5'11".
Okay, then medium or heavy?
He's skinnier.
What color hair?
Blondish gray.
Okay, and are you able to see what he's wearing or no?
I think he's wearing a black jacket.
Okay.
I have a security camera.
Uh-huh. Can you see what color pants?
He's wearing a black jacket, black pants. His hair is gray. He's still yelling things at me through the door.
Okay, black jacket, black pants. Can you hear what he's yelling?
No.
Okay.
Oh, he's saying, I want your side of the story, Greg. My name's not even Greg.
Okay.
Yeah, he's saying, I just want to talk through the door.
Okay. Okay, and free press callback number?
Yeah.
Okay, do you have any weapons in the home, James?
No, I don't.
Okay. And you said that there's roughly 5 more people there with cameras?
Yes, in the driveway.
Okay.
Now, if you actually listen carefully in the background, you actually can hear Chris Hansen talking, although it's difficult to make out exactly what he's saying.
Second here. And do you know what he's talking about, like why he was stalking you or anything like that?
Yeah, there's like it looks like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people in the driveway.
Okay.
But I have someone that there's an 18, no, I think they're 19, a 19-year-old who I didn't want to hang out with. I didn't want to be around them. They have BPD, and their stuff was, their mental disorder was like really affecting my life in a negative way. And so I said I didn't want them in my life anymore. And they went to this person and said a bunch of mean things about me. And so now this person's trying to like aggressively pursue me in a really hateful way as a result.
Onision's explanation of why Chris Hansen is supposedly stalking him is very Onision-esque. He basically blames Sarah, that's the person he's referring to, and basically says what he often says. And he says, well, this person, I kicked them out of my life, and because of that, they hate me and they're lying about me to Chris Hansen. Saying that someone is salty because he kicked them out of his life is one of Onision's common excuses.
Okay, so you said they're from YouTube, though. So is it like a show that they do, or?
It's a live stream. Yeah, I've already talked to a lawyer about slander and stuff. This guy's really, really hateful towards me.
Okay. And are you able to see what type of vehicle they arrived in?
No, they parked way down the street, which is really sketchy.
Okay.
They're standing out next to my SUV right now.
Okay. We're working on getting units out there as quickly as we can. Just go ahead and keep your doors locked. Do you feel comfortable disconnecting the line until we arrive? And then if anything changes, calling us back?
It should be fine. We're just hiding away from the windows.
Okay. If anything changes before we arrive, please call us back, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
What's interesting is Onision actually made a second call. Apparently, he was worried that maybe they weren't even going to show up and they were lying to him when they said they would be.
911 reporting.
Hi, I'm calling back. I reported some people who showed up to my house. They're trespassing and they're online.
What's the address there? Okay, I do show your call here, sir. Has something changed on scene there?
Just waiting for the police to show up. They're still in my driveway.
Okay, it is still showing here on my screen, and law enforcement has been advised. If anything does change or escalate, call us back, okay?
Are you guys going to show up?
Sir, it has been sent to the officers. They have to drive to you, okay? If something escalates, call us back, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
So there you have it, folks. The meme is real. A lot of people meme about Chris Hansen, and this meme, a lot of people are saying whoever made this meme, I don't know who it was predicting the future. And that's true, but I got to think that the person who made this meme probably was familiar with the fact that sometimes Chris Hansen does show up to people's homes, so this meme is not a total shot in the dark. And while there are some people on the internet, like Real Stream News, that seem to think that this is a lose for Chris Hansen, I'm not so sure that's the case. And like I said earlier in this video, I do believe that there is an actual FBI investigation going on concerning Onision. Again, that doesn't guarantee that he's actually going to be arrested. But I think that it is fair to assume that Chris Hansen is probably telling the truth when he says that there is an FBI investigation. Also, we can expect Chris Hansen to reveal more information about what happened when he paid a visit to Onision later on this week on his YouTube channel. Thanks very much to my Patreon producer, Lena, aka Lollipop, and my Patreon associate producer, Jamie Joy. Thanks to everyone for supporting my channel, and if you like this video, go ahead and give it a like, and if you aren't already, subscribe to my channel, click the bell icon for notifications, and together we shall take over the world. You can also catch me on Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, and Snapchat at ZorkMid123.